Alright guys, welcome back to another reaction. I was looking for a very specific video whenever I opened YouTube today. But this popped up on my homepage, and it's one of those things where anything that has to do with Uncle Iroh, I wind up watching anyways. So, I'm going to react to this, and we're going to see what Master Samwise, I hope I said that name right, has to say about why Iroh is the pinnacle of masculinity. Personally, growing up, he was kind of a role model for me, as I didn't as I was like kind of searching and trying to find myself. So people like Uncle Iroh, Mr. Feeney from Boy Meets World, and other characters like that kind of shaped my morality and thought processes on a lot of things in the world. So yeah, let's get into this and let's see what happens.
Loyalty, patience.
Uh, that is quiet. Hello? Why are you quiet?
Authenticity, humility, humor, strength, wisdom,
Okay.
love. It is rare to find all of these qualities present in a single character in any story. It
That's
is rarer
true.
still to find them in a character who struggles, who suffers loss, who has to grow and change. Rarest of all might be...
Yeah, I feel like Avatar: The Last Airbender did a really good job of really humanizing all of their characters, and that's why even now, what has it been 20 years or close? I know it's been close to 20 years at least, but I think it's been 20 years. Although I can't remember if it came out in 2003 or closer to like 2007/9 ish. But yeah, the show is still so profoundly popular because it does something that most shows these days don't, which is show you the good, the bad, the ugly, and the normal of all the characters involved. Um, I certainly feel that with most, especially popular shows these days. Each character has like two defining features to their personality, and then those two defining features kind of form their whole personality. Whereas somebody like Uncle Iroh is like, he came from like basically the top. He came from being like powerful and rich and all of this stuff, and basically throughout the series kind of just shows you that none of that's important to him. All he wants to be is a father figure for for Zuko. I almost said Uncle Iroh. Jeez, wow. But yeah, all he wants to be is a father figure for Zuko and really teach him the path that is the least destructive, unlike him following in his father's footsteps and just perpetuating a series of problems that don't need to be.
Finding such a character in a cartoon a show targeted at and written for children, yet still beloved by viewers of all ages for its art, its incredible character arcs, and its meaningful storytelling.
Yep.
Uncle Iroh is an incredible
Exactly.
example of masculinity because he exemplifies these essential virtues. To live out these virtues is to embrace full, authentic.
I remember this scene. How much of a man do you have to be, right? How much of a man do you have to be that's so confident in who you are that when somebody tries to mug you, not only do you disarm and beat him up in like literal seconds, but you also pick him up and you're like, pat him on the back, hey bro, look, I know life's hard, but you ain't gonna get anywhere like this. Also, in the future, here's the best way for you to not get thrown around like a rag doll, like I just did. All right, now back at it. Back to what you were doing, but also like this is your morality. Basically, this is your morality being called into question without calling it into question, I guess, in a way.
Masculinity is not merely defined by being strong, confident, and assertive, but rather is well-rounded and balanced, understanding that there is far more to manhood than power and bravado. I should mention that masculinity
That
is
episode
not
killed
the
me.
opposite of femininity, but rather it's the opposite of boyish immaturity. These traits...
Yes. Hold on, back that up. We need to hear that again. Where was it at?
That there is far more to manhood than power and bravado.
Right here. This is important, and I believe that it gets lost to some. And that is why you have people like doing the whole like tough guy act all the time, because they think it makes them more manly than, somebody that is not just always trying to be the tough guy, and somebody who's like, a more well-rounded type of masculine.
I should mention that masculinity is not the opposite of femininity, but rather it's the opposite of boyish immaturity. These traits and virtues that I've listed are not unique to masculinity. Women living out these traits display authentic femininity. That's not to say masculinity and femininity are the same. Two instruments playing the same note will sound quite different. But
True.
I'm a man with a man's point of view, and Iroh is also a man. So masculinity is what I'm marginally well qualified to discuss. If this video does well, maybe I'll get my wife to write a counterpart video for Tom or Aowen.
I would be interested in his wife doing a femininity, I cannot say that word apparently, video on Toph, because she's another one of the like characters that everybody like kind of goes crazy for, and really looks up to as like a strong individual.
Galadriel. This Galadriel. Anyhow, now that we've got that clarification out of the way, let's examine how Iroh lives out his masculinity and what he can teach us about what it means to be a man. Having integrity, holding onto upright moral principles is undoubtedly a necessary quality for any man. When faced with difficult decisions, do we stand fast and act according to our conscience, or do we fold under pressure?
Like a jelly-boned whip!
The show takes its time developing Iroh, slowly letting us learn more about him. At first, in addition to being his nephew's teacher, Iroh is presented as comic relief, a lighthearted counterpart to the overly serious and intense Zuko. Over time, Iroh's journey, his past is revealed, and we learn how his mistakes, failures, and loss shaped him to be the man he is now. A man of principle.
It's really cool seeing like especially once you've watched the entire series, going back all these years later, as I did more recently, and rewatching the show and realizing like knowing Iroh's story, seeing how they portrayed him in the first like season, and how he was like just, you know, he was the comedy to Zuko's serious, and how he took nothing seriously, but also like knowing after like the after after knowing the like after the water temple arc, like the northern water temple arc, knowing that like he's completely capable and he is a strong person, but he's not one of those strong people that's like, you know, I'll push people around to get my way and be a bully like the rest of the Fire Nation. Instead, um, he has more of like an old man style, like almost Avatarian feel to him. He's like he feels like he's mastered all four elements without actually being the Avatar, and I think that's one of the things that I really enjoy about going back and rewatching his journey is trying to see like, oh, that is a that is an airbender quality or that's a waterbender quality, as opposed to like just watching him be like, I'm strong. I will force you to, I will force you to like not fight people by being super imposing because he doesn't believe in that. Because essentially speaking, like there's better ways to do it, and I think that's super cool.
A man who believes in the dignity of all peoples. However, he doesn't start out as that man. Even after all he has been through, Iroh is not yet fully developed. During the Siege of the North, Iroh, still the loyal Fire Nation general, advises Zhao on the best strategy to win the battle and conquer the Northern Water Tribe.
I must advise you to halt your attack. The waterbenders draw their power from the moon.
It is not until Zhao reveals his plan to murder the Moon Spirit that we get a glimpse of Iroh's higher principles.
Because he's spiritual.
Spirits are not to be trifled with.
Iroh may be loyal to the Fire Nation, but he's also dedicated to the good and balance of the whole world.
Yeah, exactly.
He's... Iroh chooses the greater good, marking himself a traitor and commencing the final stage of his interior journey. Iroh's time in the Earth Kingdom during Book 2 evolves and solidifies his principles. By living among his former enemies, he develops a newly strengthened desire for equality and fair treatment. This comes to a head in the crossroads of destiny, where Iroh confronts Zuko as he moves to attack Aang, moves toward the honor and position he still desires.
Right.
It's time for you to choose. It's time for you to choose
Good.
Iroh, at the end of Book 1, though he stood fast on other principles, likely would not have made this speech, but he has learned and grown beyond who he was then, and so he passionately pleads with Zuko, who joined Iroh on this journey throughout the Earth Kingdom.
His love of tea is also amazing.
Having integrity does not mean being completely rigid and inflexible. Integrity is not stubbornly clinging to ideas or values with no room for change.
Well, that's just stubbornness.
It is the ability, after having formed our principles, to not waver when they are challenged. Iroh may not always have been fully on the side of goodness and truth, but he undoubtedly always held fast to his beliefs and standards, regardless of the consequences.
Right.
You guys, meet Ahmed. Ed, don't turn out to be a pain.
Not me, sir.
Yeah.
We do not merely have responsibilities to principles, but we are also accountable to the people in our lives, our loved ones, especially our children. Iroh serves as Zuko's mentor and guide, and cares for Zuko when no one else does.
Like a
think
father
of you
figure.
as my own.
He is not blind to Zuko's faults and shortcomings. Indeed, he may understand them better than anyone else. This is illustrated beautifully in The Storm, where Iroh describes the circumstances of Zuko's banishment to the ship's disgruntled crew. Where others are quick to dismiss Zuko as impulsive and reckless, which he most certainly is,
Right.
Iroh knows Zuko's heart. He understands that Zuko is in need of growth and change, but also that he has suffered greatly and needs to be given time and space to become the man Iroh knows he can be.
Who are you? And what do you want?
Iroh is loyal to Zuko. He is true to him. That doesn't mean he supports every reckless action or rash word of the prince, but rather that he refuses to give up on his nephew. Loyalty
Right.
is not blind obedience or acceptance. It is the adherence to one's duty to another. Even when Iroh and Zuko are torn apart by Zuko's betrayal, his uncle remains loyal. He continues to hope that Zuko can find his way again. Iroh does not abandon Zuko, does not count him as completely lost, but rather takes up his fight in
This scene right here was really good. Because every time that it shows Iroh, it looks like he's on the outside of the cage. But like for every frame, he's on the outside, and on every frame that Zuko is speaking, he looks like he's the one behind bars because he's trapped in his father's shadow, basically. And I love the way that they portrayed that in this scene. It's because like Iroh's supposed to be the prisoner, but it's like no, Zuko finally got what he wanted, and he caged himself to get it.
but rather takes up his fight in the only way he now can.
Also, can we talk about how strong he looked?
Working for, laughing, and eating with the enemies of their
I don't know how many, like I've tried to do a one-arm pull-up.
But Zuko's metamorphosis
I literally
was not
can't.
complete, and it was reverted by the
Even whenever I was like
form
physically
life
fit,
restored.
it was super hard to do one.
The kind of redemption she offers is not for you.
This convinces Iroh that there is nothing more he can do for Zuko. Not directly, anyway. After having received all the wisdom and guidance his uncle had to offer, Zuko must now find his own way, and it is Iroh's job to simply be there when Zuko
Yeah,
comes back,
that right there.
welcoming him with open arms. But more on that later. Iroh's steadfast refusal to give up on Zuko shows us that loyalty is not a flighty thing to be given or taken away lightly. It is a conscious choice to stand by another, to support them and help them, because they need and deserve someone at their side.
Also, looking at him whenever he's like physically strong, you know, whenever he's like super strong, looking at him as opposed to like whenever he's like right here and he's like got the dad bod going on. Was I the only one that thought he was taller? Like he just looks taller when he's built.
Patience than that of Iroh's with Zuko. Patience is an essential part of Iroh's loyalty to Zuko. Despite his nephew's regular outbursts, flare-ups, and explosions of temper, Iroh constantly remained a calming presence for the hot-headed prince. Having the patience to serenely deal with his decidedly impatient nephew is one of Iroh's defining qualities. King Bumi's advice,
You need to find someone who waits and listens before striking.
applies beyond the limited scope of earthbending. As Iroh explains to Zuko in Bitter Work, each cadre of benders can learn from the other elements and the other nations. The patience and steadiness of the Earth Kingdom's people is a quality that everyone should admire and strive to obtain. The ability to wait, to slow down, to calmly take your time and consider your options before acting is necessary for true, well-rounded masculinity.
Don't be
And when I say head on,
Don't be the boulder.
like this.
may in fact be the solution, but only if all other possibilities have been considered and found less effective. It should never be done as an immediate gut instinct reaction. That sort of impulsiveness is a clear sign of immaturity. Consider Iroh's storyline
And
during
it is very Fire Nation based.
Caught unawares and badly outnumbered, he does not immediately lash out and resist, as we can imagine Zuko would. Iroh endures captivity until he sees an opening, then acts decisively and ferociously. His patience and compliance put the Earthbenders at ease, and Iroh is able to exploit their lack of caution and engineer an escape. Or take Iroh's initial meeting with Toph during the chase. Upon sensing his movement, Toph immediately attacks, showing her fear and unease at being on her own, her immaturity and lack of experience. Iroh wisely does not respond in kind, but instead simply responds,
That really hurt my tail more.
especially firebenders might instinctually fight back, believing
Yep,
themselves to be in danger.
and burn all their
Iroh is
ships.
trying to read the situation and act in a disarming manner. He absolutely could have fought back with some justification, and that would have been a tool for the ages. But instead, he lets events play out and soon learns that his attacker was no enemy, but rather a scared child in need of wise advice and a good cup of tea. Patience does not mean a lack of decisiveness.
Everybody could
rather
use a
an
good
ability
cup of tea.
to judiciously decide when and how to act.
unlock the minds of a new generation of protectors.
Their new heroes are also their most wanted fugitives.
To truly be a man, you have to be true to yourself, to who you really are. Men are not soulless robots capable of powering through any situation without changing so much as a facial expression or experiencing a single emotion. Nor should.
Are you sure? Toxic masculinity taught us different. Oh wait, this isn't about toxic masculinity. This is about actual masculinity.
They aspire to such stoic heights. Men should not only enjoy things deemed manly by whatever society they happen to live in, they
Yes.
should be able to enjoy a wide variety of things, from flowers to art.
Yes,
to
don't forget to
tea,
stop and
they
smell the
should be able to
roses.
appreciate the beauty, skill, or deliciousness inherent in all of those. Iroh is so beautifully, wonderfully authentic. There's no better example of his authenticity, of course, than his love of tea.
After I reconquer Ba Sing Se, I'm going to reconquer my tea shop.
Not to mention that tea is widely seen as unmanly, quite common worldwide, and this also seems to apply to the world of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Wait, I missed that.
I'm going to reconquer my tea shop.
I'm not suggesting that tea is widely seen as unmanly. It's quite common worldwide, and this also
This is the list of countries ordered by annual per capita consumption of tea as of 2016. Bruh. America ain't even on the list, bro? Like, we're not even on the top 24. It makes me sad.
apply to the world of Avatar: The Last Airbender, but I'm an American, and we tend to have skewed perspectives about all things we perceive as British. Anyhow, I think we can agree
Fair
that a
enough.
deep love of, maybe even an obsession with, a beverage that can best be described as
Hot leaf juice.
is not something we would expect from a fire-breathing general of the nation that is taking over the known world. But that certainly doesn't stop Iroh from enjoying it to the fullest. Iroh's love of tea provides us with an example of the beauty of appreciation. There are so many good and beautiful things in this world and Iroh's that deserve to be appreciated. Being able
True.
to look at a flower or a cup of tea as more than their surface qualities and appreciate the intricate design or creative blend of flavors is a quality for which we should all strive. If we go through life only judging things based off a surface level view, we're not seeing their true natures, and thus our thoughts and opinions cannot truly be authentic. Like the flower and the tea, Iroh is
Exactly.
far more than can be perceived at first glance, or sip. By taking the time to really
Hot
think
leaf
about the
juice.
world around him,
I also like the fact that, like, another thing that they added into the whole, to like the whole like tea obsession with Uncle Iroh is how he had that like deep, meaningful like balance of all four elements is how you make good tea. Because again, that goes back to him mastering all four elements as not the Avatar.
seeing the beauties that hide from a casual glance, Iroh tells us about his own nature, how he is so much more than meets the eye. Iroh's love of tea also shows us the importance of mastery. When we truly appreciate something, we should strive to master it as best we can. Whether
True.
it's an art form, a job, or any other means of self-expression, diligent study and practice cuts through cheap tricks and quick wins, and allows us to display something true and authentic about ourselves. By
Fair enough.
mastering the art of tea making, Iroh does not merely establish that he really likes tea, but also that he is a careful, patient, deliberate man who has spent years perfecting his craft. A man who can take the time to become a master, even in the making of
Hot leaf juice.
shows he is not afraid to pursue his true passions and demonstrates a willingness to learn that is translatable to any area of study. By daring to be the Fire Nation general with a passion for tea, Iroh teaches us the importance of defying molds, of rejecting the expectations of others when they run contrary to our true selves, no matter how others might view us.
Yes.
Humility is one of my favorite virtues to discuss, mostly because it's largely misunderstood.
Pride is not the opposite of shame, but its source. True humility is the only antidote to shame.
Being humble does not mean
Yes.
having a lowly view of oneself or disregarding one's positive traits. Having true humility means having an accurate view of yourself, having insight into your own strengths and weaknesses, your virtues and vices. To be humble, we have to reject bravado, overconfidence, and arrogance, yes, but at the same time, we must acknowledge our own abilities. In short, humility can be defined as having clear self-perception, having an untarnished view of yourself. You see Iroh's humility on full
Yes.
display during the tale of
Fair enough, fair enough.
short anthological
I really, I can really appreciate the way that was worded. In a way that, like, even if I wanted to add to it, there's not really anything to add to it.
segment of the Tales of Ba Sing Se gives us
Because it was so well worded.
character. Though he's a man of great botanical knowledge, he doesn't shame the shop owner for not knowing where to place the moonflower.
The moonflower likes partial shade.
Iroh imparts his knowledge in a genteel way, lacking any pride or derision. His humility allows him to share what he knows in a generous manner, with genuine care and love for the world around him.
Oh, this episode was so good.
Would be mugger with the poor stance. If he were driven by pride, Iroh would notice the man's ineptitude and immediately act, only desiring to demonstrate his superior martial proficiency. Instead,
Right.
Iroh takes the time to calmly and even sadly note the mugger's ludicrous stance. He does not deride the man, he does not mock him, he simply critiques his technique, or lack thereof, in a manner that shows how much Iroh cares about proper form and training. Teaching someone of lesser knowledge without belittling them takes humility, as Iroh displays here. I wasn't completely sure under which category.
And then he sits down and has a cup of tea with him.
But since I've been covering the tale of Iroh under humility, now seems like an appropriate time. One of the hardest things to do in life is to admit that we made mistakes. Our pride tends to make us hate admitting that we were in the wrong. We will go to great lengths to justify things we have said or done. When Iroh says,
Only I could have helped you.
we understand that he has no such pride. He failed his son. He lost him. There's
Yep.
nothing he can do about it. But
He can learn from
as
it.
a man and as a father. Iroh's pride could have overtaken him, caused him to seek vengeance for his son by throwing all his energy, his whole self, into the war effort, but he chose another way. By learning from his failure, Iroh became a wiser, gentler man, while still retaining his inner strength. Humility allows us to overcome our pride and learn from our failures, rather than being consumed by them.
Right.
It's a little odd to talk about humor being an essential part of masculinity, since stoicism is widely considered a manly trait. And to be sure, the ability
True.
to maintain composure in difficult situations is worth obtaining. But if you can't also take the time to laugh, particularly at yourself, you lack balance. Masculinity can never
Yes. That is something that I think a lot of people need to learn. It is good to always have that level of stoicism and to be proud of yourself and confident in your abilities. But there also needs to be that level of humor and humility to yourself to really let you enjoy life. If you go through life being serious all the time, that is a form of living, but it kind of snuffs out all of the joy with the journey. I'm a very big like dark humor enjoyer, and I make fun of myself a lot, but I think that the biggest thing is that, like, there has to be a level of balance in it. There has to be a level of balance in the humor. You can laugh at your failures, just as long as you don't, like, let that joke become your personality.
sway too far toward one virtue without becoming unbalanced and venturing into the extreme end of that virtue.
Yeah,
thus
exactly.
Becoming a vice. This is applicable for any of the virtues discussed here, but I think it's notable with humor because stoicism is so common in the archetypal man's man in cinema.
Yeah.
Ethan Hunt, Jason Bourne, John Wick, and any number of John Wayne or Clint Eastwood's
Oh,
characters are
God.
able to endure the toughest of situations without so much as changing their facial expression. However, even they have moments of sorrow and joy, but none none quite so well portrayed as our Iroh's. What makes Iroh's humor so delightful? Well, consider a few more examples.
Only in my case, it's more like a vast ocean.
You bought a sungi, man?
For music night on the ship. Now, if we only had some wood beats. Not that I love you. I just met you.
For one thing, Iroh's humor is never at another's expense.
He means no offense. I'm certain you bathe regularly.
Maybe never was too strong a word.
He never belittles or tears down another person for a laugh. The vast majority of his humor is self-deprecating.
Exactly.
Just straight up funny at no one's expense. Iroh is more than willing to laugh at himself or find joy in an amusing situation or turn of phrase. Able to laugh at clever remarks, goofy objects, or bad tea jokes, Iroh shows us the simple beauty of good humor. Smiling and laughing are some of the most attractive human behaviors. Happy people, quite simply, are more likable and approachable. Where Zuko remains stoic and steadfastly devoted to his single-minded mission, Iroh attracts the goodwill and love of the audience with his lightheartedness and jovial nature. But
Right.
Iroh's good humor is not merely for our benefit, to make the audience love him, though it certainly accomplishes that. So much of it is for Zuko's benefit. Iroh tries
He's trying to break him out of his stoic
Rather
shell.
than being aimlessly cheery, there is an end to Iroh's jokes and goofs. They are for the good of his nephew, for the good of the boy who he would not see follow the path of his own son. Iroh's humor is so wonderfully masculine because he deploys it appropriately and purposefully. He knows when to be stoic and serious, and when to wisecrack and smile disarmingly. There is balance in his humor, and balance, finding the golden mean, as we've already discussed, is crucial for the pursuit of true, full manhood.
People remember
Yes.
heartwarming ads, so bundle and save with Liberty Mutual.
Now let's talk about how Iroh fulfills every man's dream of becoming an absolute physical specimen. Being physically strong is important. Let's be clear about that.
Yeah.
Strengthening your body through rigorous exercise and training allows you to take care of and, if needed, defend.
I think that's a little less pertinent nowadays, as far as like everybody wanting to be, like every man wanting to be peak male form, as it was back in the day when this was aired. Because people's realities change as the years go on. And then you have the people that like basically give up on wanting to be essentially like peak form in anything, and they really just want to like scrape by. And you know, while there's nothing wrong with that, I feel like that's kind of where this like may be a little harder to agree with. Personally, I miss my peak male form, but with my work-life balance being what it is, I don't think I'll ever get my abs back and, you know, be super ripped again. It would be nice, but I was there once. I enjoyed it while I was there. But it's not something that I want to go through the super rigorous training regime to get back all of that.
Defend yourself and your family. There is great value in physical strength. However, such strength is impossible to achieve without mental strength, without fortitude and willpower. It's great to
Basically.
work out, to develop, to train and tone your body, but you cannot do so consistently unless you have an end in mind. Throughout the first two
Yeah.
books, Iroh is far, far from the paragon of physical
Yeah,
fitness. He
yeah,
himself practiced
that's kind of like where I'm at. Is the end goal for me? The end goal for me, every time that I've tried to get back in the gym, the end goal for me has always been for me to be like, to have my 8-pack back, to have my pecs back, to be toned and ripped and everything again. But at the same time, that adds a layer of stress to my work-life balance that is already pretty paper thin. So I can't stick to it for very long because I don't have the mental fortitude to continue on that path past a point where I get stuck, because for all intents and purposes, like, I have no plan for it, right? It's just for me.
Food in the size of his belly. But when the need arises, Iroh reveals the strength that he has always held within himself. That strength is not in his biceps, well, not at first, but rather is in his mind, in his perseverance. Upon getting thrown in jail, Iroh does not despair, though he does take time to recover from Zuko's betrayal. When he sees Zuko visit his uncle in the headband, Iroh is too hurt to respond. He is not yet ready to help Zuko find his way again. But Zuko's visit does confirm one thing, that the prince is still in need of guidance and love.
Please, Uncle, I'm so confused. I need your help.
This one-sided conversation helps restore Iroh's purpose, and his hope for Zuko impels him to become, well, an absolute unit. Strength like Iroh's is not impressive simply in its own right, though it is incredibly impressive. I mean, he blows open the wall of Ba Sing Se with a single massive fireball, for crying out loud, but rather because of what it tells us about the journey of the character possessing such strength.
Right.
It shows dedication, perseverance, and self-sacrifice. One cannot obtain strength of body, mind, or firebending without bending one's will toward mastery. Iroh is a perfect embodiment of those strengths. His resolute, unfailing pursuit of what is good and true allowed him to be metal bars with his bare hands, unleash waves of fire that overwhelm his opponents, and, most importantly, love Zuko in a way that allows him to see clearly and find his own path.
Struggle between your two great grandfathers can help you better understand the battle within yourself.
Iroh's chiseled physique is not masculine just because it looks awesome, though it does, but rather because it shows us what we can be if the need arises, and if our minds are sufficiently strong. Physical power without purpose is vanity, but when given direction, when needed, it unmistakably displays the masculinity, the dedication, fortitude, and perseverance of its holder. All of these virtues, however, are for naught if one is not wisdom. What is wisdom? It is not merely knowledge, no matter how high the level of knowledge. Instead, it is the combination of knowledge, insight, and right judgment that allows one to act appropriately in a given situation. Wisdom is knowing when to be stoic and when to crack a joke. Wisdom is knowing when it's time to be patient and when it's time to strike. Wisdom is understanding the power of physical strength and of a gentle word, and using one when the other wouldn't be as effective. Wisdom is a deep and accurate understanding of oneself, of others, and of the world, combined with the ability to discern how to act based on that knowledge. If you hold fans of Avatar: The Last Airbender to define
wisdom
Iroh
comes with
as a single
age
trait, I bet
is
could argue that wisdom
very
would be at the top of the
prominent
list.
here.
Iroh displays wisdom in practically every scene he's in. By imparting kindly words of advice to Toph, by teaching Zuko the importance of balance, and by admitting to Aang that he doesn't always have the answers, Iroh demonstrates that he is an astute, experienced teacher who is also smart enough to admit that he is not omniscient. It's hard to pick out examples of Iroh's wisdom that I haven't already covered under another virtue, and that's kind of the point. By exercising patience when captured, Iroh demonstrates wisdom. By knowing when to step in and prevent Zuko from doing something rash, Iroh shows proper judgment. By humbly accepting that Ozai, the man who stole the throne of the Fire Nation from him, is not his to defeat, Iroh displays superior understanding. Iroh is so admirable, is such a paragon of masculinity, because after a lifetime of experience, learning, and failure, Iroh has grown in knowledge, strength, humility, and virtue of every kind, and he acts according to what he has learned. He has piercing insight into others and himself, and so is able to direct Team Avatar as they
See, I feel like that's another thing that comes with it, is as I've gotten older, talking to, well, most of the Vtuber community, who is younger than I am. There's not very many people that are in specifically my community or the communities that I'm like connected to who are older than me. Most of them sitting somewhere around the age of like 18 to like 26. So like that little bit of time. And being able to like basically impart wisdom onto them about decisions that they're going to make, where they're like, I'm going to do this, and there's a part of me that, you know, did that at their age or younger or something, and I actually know how that's going to turn out, or have insight into how that's going to turn out. It's actually pretty impressive, because like growing up, most people, you know, like myself, if an adult told me, you know, oh, this is going to lead to this, chances are pretty high I was going to do it anyways, and then I was going to get upset when the adult was right, because it shouldn't play out like that for me. I'm not you. I'm a different person. But most of the time, from what I've witnessed, is it might not turn out exactly the same, but the chances are pretty high that it's going to turn out similar. So you should just like not necessarily, you know, do exactly what they say, or don't do exactly what they say, but it should definitely be like a part of your mentality to like kind of have the little bird on your shoulder, be like, okay, so they said this, so let's take that into consideration before we act. And I think that's pretty important, as far as like traversing the difficulties of life.
Struggle to know their destinies without aim or sight. This scene on the eve of the war's final battle is when we get to see Iroh in all his wisdom, no longer hampered by and stronger because of his failures, fully devoted to the mission he now knows is his to make.
Hey, destiny is our friend. I know it.
Yeah.
If I did not cover the scene prior to the one I just mentioned, in which Zuko and Iroh are finally reconciled after Zuko's betrayal during the Crossroads of Destiny. It is an incredibly beautiful, touching scene that shows the growth of both characters and their bond in a way that can hardly be watched with dry eyes. Iroh's unconditional love for Zuko is overwhelming. He forgives and embraces Zuko, not because he wasn't hurt by his nephew's betrayal, but rather because he is overjoyed that Zuko has grown to become the man Iroh knew he could be.
You did it by yourself.
In doing so,
Yes.
Iroh shows us the truest meaning of love, desiring the good of another. Throughout the series, there is nothing Iroh has wanted more than for Zuko to find his way, to be more than a loyal servant of the Fire Nation, to be true to himself. Everything Iroh does is in service of that love. His wholehearted commitment to the good of Zuko, his adopted son, is constant and unwavering. In loving so purely and deeply, Iroh lives out his authentic masculinity to a level rarely matched in the world of fiction. I hope you enjoyed watching
Exactly.
this video as much as I enjoyed making it. Please drop a like if you want me to do more such videos, and leave your suggestions for other character profiles I can do. And as always, thank you so much for watching.
Yeah. No, thanks for making the video, Master Samwise. Subscribe. Let's go ahead and come down here. We're gonna like this. That was a really good video. As a girl, because what he said never felt forced or preachy. Exactly. It's done in such a way that you don't feel like he's kind of coming at you like an authority figure. Meaning, even if it didn't make sense to those around him, he was always aggressively himself in the best way, and only ever wanted himself and others to be happy. 10 of 10, best character ever written. You know, Crossed Roses, I have to agree with you. Like I said, Uncle Iroh, there's a reason that people look up to him even today and think that he is such a profoundly good character even today. But that's the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys like the video and want to see more of my commentary, I'll try not to go so in depth next time. But again, Uncle Iroh was one of my role models growing up, so we did a little fanboying today. But yeah, until next time, bye bye. I love you all. Bye bye.